My farm is out there, the ocean. And that's where my ancestry showed me where my farm is, called Minas, out there. That is my farm.
You look at the great mountains, the mighty mountains up above. Our native people, when they see snow up on a mountain, great amount of snow, they were very happy. They were delighted. Because up there is a lifeline of all living things, for you, me, fish, animals, everything depends on them great mountains.
$15,000 years ago, melting glaciers left behind them lakes and streams that formed the Fraser River system. It became the home of the sockeye salmon and the home of the native people who came to live along this watershed. It is now the moon of the sockeye salmon. The salmon are coming back from the sea.
Our native people were very sharing people. They smoked and dried fish as far as you can walk up in the direction of the great rivers. The reason for smoking so many and drying so many is that one day you want to share these things that you have with some people they will invite. So it was really not only for their own use, but to share their resources with the other tribes.
Each band have his own section of land, and there's a law for all Indians to make good to look after the land.
The European settlers made plans to exploit the great salmon runs. But first, the Indians had to be removed by laws and regulations.
1870. Land Ordinance prohibiting Indians from acquiring land for their own purpose and to
1877.
transmit such
Fisheries
land
Act
to their
prohibiting all
descendants.
net salmon fishing.
On the fresh waters
1888.
of British Columbia.
Fisheries regulation restricting Indians to fish only for food.
And all around the island, it's just like that. When the white men come, they wipe out everything to take over the island and sell whatever they can sell. Nothing go to the Indians.
1894. Fisheries regulation prohibiting Indians. 1920. Signature of Bill 13 enabling the reduction and cutoff of 1924. Indian Act restricting Indians from 1927. Outlawing of political activity by Indians. 1960. The right to vote has been denied to Indians until this day.
You can destroy many, many things. I have seen areas where once the waters flow, they go dry without these beautiful timbers. Nature has its way of looking after the lakes, the mountains. The trees stand there for some reasons. In some ways, we are destroying what you see over here because of what is known today as greed, the money.
At the end of its journey, the Fraser River reaches the coast alongside the city of Vancouver. Off the coast lies Vancouver Island. This area was and still is occupied by the Coast Salish, the Kwakiutl, and New Channeled nations. Still struggling today as they were 150 years ago for a vital living space.
They've denied us access to our own resources. Of the seas, the Howe Sound, the Burrard Inlet, our rivers, our fishery, our forests, our minerals. We have seen taking place in our traditional territories of Squamish a great deal of development, a great deal of progress. We've seen heavy industrial development taking place. We have seen Vancouver grown over the past 6 or 7 decades to a great metropolitan area. We have seen non-Indians benefit from the resources that belong, we believe, to the Squamish people. Our old people have a saying that the Howe Sound and the Squamish River and all the streams that flow into the Howe Sound, that's our soup bowl. Our economy was based on the resources and the bounties of the sea, and the game, and the birds, and the mountains and the valleys. So the soup bowl that the white man calls Howe Sound was our economy. These past 6 or 8 decades, we have been displaced from our economy. We are prepared to launch a major court action. We're prepared to take our case to the courts of this land, to argue our case with respect to the Aboriginal title of the Squamish people. It's a serious step we're taking. Got to understand who we're lined up against. We are talking about downtown Vancouver. We're talking about the industrial and commercial and financial heartland of British Columbia, and the millions and billions of dollars of goods that come into this harbor and leaves this harbor. The parties opposite in the courtroom can summon all the resources and all the manpower and all the wealth that is available to them by the state. And that's who we're basically lined up against.
There's a little mountain here, and it has a great history. And that's that mountain over there. We were told that was a place some of our people survived the flood. The people there, seeing the water leaving, the water going down, and they pointed to that, and they said, "Ni, Husainich. Look, it's emerging." That was another life for those people that was born all over to them again. That's why the name is Saanich. Saanich in our language means emerging. We're saved. It was a great gift. They survived that, and they continued to live.
Never used to crab fish like this. When we lived down there, we used to have a pole with a spear on the end of it and poke the crabs. Or a little scoop for eating. But we're modernized now.
We're just checking this one for dead ones, saying something might die in there, and they die and the other ones eat them. And that's not very good for them. So we'll take the dead ones out. We're just seeing if there's any dead ones in there right now. And I think most of our days catching the other live box. Try to pour them slow. If they go fast, they start biting each other up, and then they start losing legs and pinchers. We pour them slow. You can hear them breaking legs in there now already. Once they get underwater, they quit fighting each other, and they settle down once they're in the water.
Hey.
The Indians, they're net, when they go out fishing, the warden will come there and tell them to get out of there. They lived there before the white people came. Here's the Indian, denied to fish. You think it's fair? Oh, they were hurt. We were hurt too, you know, when they took our weirs off.
Indian fish weirs. The European settlers were quick to exploit the Indian fish weirs for their own benefit. Nowadays, biologists use the fish weir principle to learn more about the salmon, just as the Indian elders did. The sad irony is that in the past, the government had all Indian fish weirs broken up.
Those fish weirs were broken up because the fisheries officers thought that the weirs were stopping the salmon from going up to spawn. And coincidentally, right about that time, the provincial government had given a commercial seine license to one white man, and he had exclusive commercial fishing rights to the mouth of the Cowichan River. And the real question that should have been asked at that time is what caused the salmon to stop spawning in the Cowichan River? Was it the weirs or was it the overfishing at the mouth?
Well, we don't know because they don't allow us to go near the river anymore. They pinch me if I take 2 fish out of that river, which I owned before. That was my aholti before him.
Aholti is a word that comes from the Wakashan language. It expresses a concept common to all First Peoples of the West Coast. It tells of a territory extending from the mountains behind to the sea in front, as far as the eye can see. It tells of how to use a territory. It tells of how to take care of it for those yet to come.
And they're not looking after. Why put me to jail when I'm not looking after that river? I looked after it myself when I was 13 years old. I followed my orders from my father. Said he taught me how to do to look after that river. And one time, I went up there later years, when I got to maybe 30 or 35 years old. I went back to Muya. I went hunting. And where I used to clean, boy, it's mess. Talk about mess. Talk about mess. I don't think anybody has ever lifted up a stick, tried to clean where I used to clean it. Talk about lock jams like that. Because the European is looking after it. I'm not looking after it anymore, where I used to have it clean. Because nobody cares no more. They're not looking after the rivers anymore. That's why it's dying. That's why it's dying.
You got lots of trees coming down and it just piles up in a shallow area, and once one digs in and gets stuck, the rest pile up against it. So that's how you get those log jams. Well, if you could see it, you could see the erosion on both sides of this tree, eh? At high tide, it's just going right around it. You can see the parts coming out over there and then going in over there. So you give that tree another year or so, it'll be down. It just will wash out to the beach. So that bank used to be way out here, way out. We lost this part here in the past 5 years.
In the near future, we'll be having this kind of floodings and river changes and everything in the future to come. Down the beach there's about 6 feet of just, bark and all that, twigs and everything like that. Just around the point of our fishing ground. It'll never come back again, not for quite a few years. We're going to have the same problems with the bark that's still left there after 50, 60, 70 years of logging in our booming. It's still there. It won't wash out of there. It'll just rot, and all that poisonous stuff will come out of there, and then there goes our fish. We've showed some anger, but what the heck? You're gonna just create more problems when you start raising hell with the...
Maybe it's about time we got angry.
Nature was a living thing. You had to respect it. Europeans don't understand the nature of things. He has to learn that it's a living thing, the Mother Earth. It gives you anything you want.
Talk about the life-giving fluids the mountain brings into the Great Lakes, where living creatures live. Fish, there's some bears. They all have a reason to live. They give freely. We can dive into the water and get some other seafoods that are edible foods. Mother Nature has given us so much. Father Time has its limit. It's something we can never change, because you only have a lifespan. But the lifelines that you see in the great waters, the generosity that we share with Mother Nature, like we are, you and I, we are the flowers of this earth.
Why do you have logging camps up above this lake here? My grandfather must be rolling around in his grave.
There's so much commercial, everything's commercialized in our life. Now it has destroyed the Indian way of living completely.
One of the answers to the whole problem is right here on these floats. We've got 110,000 juvenile fish, and that's probably the equivalent of a good-sized wild run, because we do 100 times better survival-wise than the wild fish do. In the late 1970s, everybody could see that the runs of salmon were falling down, and we tried to help them out by building this hatchery. We think if we were successful in raising as many fish as we'd like to, there'd be plenty of fish for everybody, plenty of salmon for everybody.
For the first people, the salmon spirit is reality. There is a bond between them. They are what the salmon is. They will become what the salmon becomes. If the salmon disappears, so will they. But if the salmon is raised in captivity, is it not like the first people living on reserve?
The logging companies really don't care what they do to the environment anymore, because they know that the economy of this country can be subsidized by enhanced stock, such as fish farming, such as hatcheries. So they really don't need the mountain anymore. We're starting to manage the fish in isolation of those things.
In fish farms, the salmon are also kept in captivity. They are fed food pellets. They grow fast, they grow fat. Within a few years, more than half the salmon consumed will come from fish farms.
Fish farms, it's not like our wild stock, and you bring it home, fry it in a frying pan, they just go like mush, they melt. Their body's not holding like a wild stock. It's gonna ruin a lot of things, this fish farm. Fishery is not gonna be fast enough to stop these things. No, they'll be